Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode number 89 of CBD Talk Podcast. You guys know I'm a big fan of science, and you will recognize our guest today if you have been on some of our other episodes. It is Dr. Emek Blair, and he's got another study for us, and I am so excited about this because one of our other episode guests who is trying to get some studies done as well, refers to medicinal cannabis as science light and how we need to change that as an industry.
No, you know what? Science light is, I think, a very good description.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And it's okay. We're changing that.
Exactly. And that's why we have Dr. Blair with us today. And I'm really excited. So if you have not done this yet, go to cbdtalkpodcast.com. There's a link on that to the extract from the study that we're talking about today. You can also go to Puffin Hemp, Puffin hemp.com, and there's a link to it on there as well. So my link on the podcast page goes to the link that's on the Puffin Hemp page. But go download it, read it. It's an extract, so it's meant to be easily digested, or at least more easily digested than however many pages the full report is. So anybody will be able to get something out of this. So I really recommend you download it and you read it. So without further ado, can you start out with just telling us why you did the study and what you're hoping to get from this?
Right. So let me start off by saying that the study, it's a straightforward study. We gave 10 people 3 times the typical dose of a liposomal CBD and tracked their blood at day 0 and day 30. And we want to see if there's any changes occurring. And the reason is because we're really trying to understand the very, very basics of what CBD is and how it interacts with your body, right? So right now, because of years and years of prohibition, we haven't been able to do that. But with the Farm Act, now we have access to it, it's available, and people are consuming it. So we really just want to see, question number 1, can we answer whether it's safe or not, right? Now, because it's a new material, that hasn't been studied very much, we started small, right? So we started with 10 people, but we're going to be expanding that study. We're already in the planning stages and recruiting stages of expanding a study on cannabinoids and really trying to understand how it interacts with the human body. I mean, it's really, really exciting. We'll have another paper being published in February. And then, we submitted a paper a couple of days ago to PNAS, which is one of the top science journals in the world, in collaboration with a very well-known university and their hospital and their /medical school.
Fabulous. Now, so can you, for people who are not familiar with this, just explain the difference between a safety study and the other studies that are being done?
Sure. So safety study that we did, very, very straightforward. So when you go to the doctor for your yearly physical, he takes some basic, some blood from you and then sends it out for some basic blood labs, right? So we looked at cholesterol, at bilirubin, which is an indication of liver function, creatinine, which is an indication of kidney function. We looked at a variety of different, blood levels, the same thing you get during your physical, and we just tracked it for 1 month, right? And now that the month was done and we showed that all body, all blood indications either stayed stable or slightly improved, we're now comfortable expanding the study and trying to get more data. Okay. The other studies, one of the studies that will be published, let's say in February, that looks specifically on when you eat CBD or you eat hemp, is really the thing. When you eat hemp extract, how much gets absorbed into your blood and how much gets rejected. And we did a comparison with just regular hemp versus our liposomal hemp to really understand how it interacts with your body on that level. The third study is actually a study that's looking at basically joint function, right? Arthritis, things like that. So we're looking, that one's more of an outcome type study, though it does have a comparison of regular hemp and liposomal high absorption hemp and looking at both of those.
Fabulous. So what are you hoping these studies are going to accomplish for the industry?
Okay, so the first thing, the first study that was published in November, not only did we show some blood levels, but we also provided a blueprint for the rest of the industry, right? So now that it's out there and it's available, it's simple. You could follow and do exactly what we did. And my expectation is that responsible parties in the hemp industries will take it upon themselves and start conducting their own clinical studies. This is one of the things all the stakeholders, everybody who's involved in the hemp cannabis industry, in the supplement industry, in the food industry, in the drink industry, and they want to use hemp as an ingredient, they have to take it on themselves and say, you know what, maybe this isn't what's going to generate revenue. Maybe this isn't part of my business plan, but it's important to give back to the scientific community. And if you're getting financial gain, you have to contribute back and, ensure that what you're selling is backed by science, right? Beyond that, a lot of companies in the hemp space need to be more science-based. We're seeing a lot of issues out there, right? Companies aren't testing their product. They're not testing the raw ingredients. They're not following good manufacturing practices. And what's happened is there's a lot of bad press. And the bad press is right. Like, this is not that, the media said something and it's not correct. The media went, they took some products, they tested them, and guess what? They came out low.
It is what it
right?
is.
So this is one of those things that the stakeholders in the hemp industry have to take responsibility, and we have to say, look, we're the good actors. We expect you to also do what's appropriate, what's ethical, what's correct.
Yeah, and I can, as it is right now, a lot of people are just writing on the backs of either studies done overseas or just also just what is, my brain doesn't like the word that that people use all the time, anecdotal.
Yeah, anecdotal.
Yeah, put your money
And
where your mouth is and participate.
That's exactly right. And the reality is, so I've been in the supplement industry for a long time. And in 2010, the dietary supplement industry went through this, right? We saw the industry went from being unregulated to being regulated, right? And during the summer of 2010, that happened. And what you saw is that certain companies said, look, we care, we're investing in quality control and quality insurance. We're going to say, you know what? We're going to spend more money on testing to ensure the products. And the companies that weren't willing to do that, they're not around anymore, right? So now the hemp industry is going to have to do the same thing, right? And, Michael McGuffin, who I follow very, very closely, he's been on your podcast.
Yes, he has.
I've seen him many times, and he says this very eloquently, and I'm going to try and paraphrase what he says, but it's not going to be as articulate as what Michael McGuffin says or how he says it. But basically, his message is we don't need to reinvent the wheel. CGMP already exists for food. It already exists for dietary supplements. It already exists for drink manufacturers. Heck, good hygiene practices exist for restaurants, right? And what people in the hemp and cannabis industry need to do is they need to follow that model, right? They need to copy that model, right? They don't have to come up with a whole new concept, a whole new anything. They just need to do what's already established.
I think what would be very helpful, though, because there are so many people in the industry that aren't PhDs like you are, that don't
Right.
have that heavy science background. I would like to see the opportunity for there to be either like through something like APA, the American
Right.
Herbal,
Association, yeah.
yeah, where part of the dues would go towards funding studies, so that people could participate as a group, like several
Right.
companies come together. But I haven't seen that organization yet, something where there's like, hey, here's someone that's going to do a study, 10 of you can go in to fund it or something like that.
Right.
Is there anything
Well,
like that out there?
traditionally that's the role of government, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, well, no, unfortunately, the fact that it's newly legal, basically it's just going to take time. Listen, setting up even a small study like I did, which it's a human study, and it's really good, valid science, and it's step one in a marathon, right?
Yes.
So we got to take another 130 steps.
Yeah.
Till we understand this the same way that we understand vitamin C.
Right.
Right.
But see, that's the thing is how can companies like, just good CBD companies that are doing the, CGMP and all of that, and
Right.
how can they participate in or contribute to a study if they just don't have that background?
Well, it's actually really, really easy. You can go and hire the same way that I did. I didn't personally do the study. I hired a contract research organization, and there are numerous ones here in the United States, in Canada, in India. There's a lot to choose from, and it's just about making a financial investment is what it's really about. Now, what is nice is I do know other companies, and I won't mention exactly who they are because I'm not sure what they do or don't want me to say, but people call me up and I'm happy to help them out. I'm happy to help other companies if they want to talk to me and be like, look, how do we do this? What are the steps, etc. I think it's an obligation for me as a stakeholder to help other companies. But this is the other thing. These companies should go and hire some scientists. Just because the owner of the company doesn't have a PhD or a master's or a bachelor's doesn't mean he can't hire somebody, which he should have a scientist on staff anyway for quality control, quality assurance, right, to oversee all that and production. So either tasking them or hiring another person to be like, hey, listen, your job is now to find somebody we can partner up with. You can go to a university. There are numerous universities will be more than happy to accept funding from hemp companies and run these studies. I know of several universities that are doing that right now. I'm partnering up with a faculty member. We're actually starting a joint venture where we're putting in money from a couple of different companies in order to run more hemp studies, because we figured he could do some, I could do some, but together, we could be much more targeted. See, and the results could be much more impactful.
That is so what we need.
Absolutely. So like I said, my hope is that people start doing, okay, so here's another way you can do it. All right. Doctors are prescribing CBD and hemp products all the time. Okay. These doctors are following these patients of theirs blood levels. These doctors should gather the statistics. Okay. And they've got to gather the statistics and they've got to publish them as case studies. Or, maybe what we need to do is actually set up a format where people can bring in data and we can analyze it for quality and then look at that. But doctors should take it on themselves. If they're prescribing an ingredient and a product, it's completely ethical. It's completely moral. They can ask the patient, hey, look, without disclosing your name, we'd like to use your blood levels. Is that okay? Every patient's going to be like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, especially in the CBD world, if they're taking CBD, they want everyone
because,
to know.
Well, look, it's no skin off their back. They're doing it anyway. All he's saying is like, can I take this data, put it in a table, and publish it?
Yeah.
Right? And if the data is good, fantastic. If the data is bad, and has negative effects.
That's good too, because we learned something.
That's right, because then we can understand what are the interactions, what kind of people can take it. If you've got, because right now, it appears that for healthy people, this is not a problem, right? Now, of course, there is that one drug study which showed that high amounts of pure CBD does stress the liver. And that makes sense, by the way. So let me explain why this all makes sense and the study results are what they are, right? Is that the majority of CBD is eliminated through what's known as first-pass rejection or first-pass metabolism. Okay, so basically it goes to your liver and your liver kicks it out, right? And that's why only a very small amount of CBD is actually absorbed into your body, right? And the drug that they were looking at is a pure CBD drug. So when you give somebody,
right? Or is this a human study?
This is a mouse study.
Okay.
Yes, this is a mouse, an animal model, right? So this is a preclinical study on animals. And basically at high doses, CBD stressed the mouse's liver, okay? And the idea there is that, and I want to say correctly in a very simple way, is that they gave mice way more CBD than any human's ever going to take, and it stressed the liver. So the next question is, well, what does that mean for a human, right? And that's what we're in the process of tabulating right now. Now, I think we can say something simple, that humans have been consuming hemp for tens of thousands of years, right? I mean, that's not disputed by anybody. I think we also know that hemp was food that we gave to our livestock, and then we ate the livestock and we benefited from the nutritional content of hemp because either we ate it or the animals that we ate it, right? So I think it's obvious that mankind co-evolved with hemp, right? And co-evolved means this, that we changed because of hemp, and then we changed hemp because that's what we do to crops, right? I mean, corn today and corn 1,000 years ago is very, very different. And it's not genetically modified, it's just bred in a certain way that made the ears of corn bigger, right? I mean, people were doing this way long before they knew what DNA was. So we've got thousands and thousands of years of data that we were getting our essential fatty acids and a variety of really important ingredients like terpenes and cannabinoids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we thrived. Our bodies thrived from that, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, in the last 70 years, it was ripped out of our world and we stopped eating it. And I think we can all agree that whatever we substituted with hasn't worked out so great for us, right? Corn is a great example, right? I mean, we should be feeding our animals hemp, not corn. We should be giving them things that help them grow in a healthy way rather than, you know, all that corn stresses out their immune system and provides no nutritional value other than sugar, which then we eat meat that's made out of sugar, right? Doesn't make any sense. So with that one, and I'm seeing this all over the place with, you know, oh, CBD, bad, liver, blah, blah, blah. The amounts that they gave the mice in the study were extreme. And well, I wouldn't say extreme. Look, they're appropriate for the study, okay?
Right, okay.
And for instance, like my study, it's a 10-person human study over 30 days, right? So what happened there, and what I can talk about is specific to the study. In their study, they dosed it accordingly because basically what they did was, and I'm going from memory, it's been a long time since I read the study, but they went through, I think a 12x is a typical dose for a mouse study like that, where they gave them 12 times the highest dose possible for that, right? So, but what you get from that is that potentially for people who are sick, remember that study is to determine how this product affects sick people.
Got it, okay.
Right? Hemp on the market today, other than Epidiolex, other than the FDA-approved drug, is for healthy people.
Right.
Right? If you're not healthy and you're going to take a hemp product, you've got to talk to your doctor first, because he will be able to tell you, hey, listen, I know your blood levels, I know your health state, you should or shouldn't take it.
Yeah.
And that's really, really important. Right? Nowadays, people think going to Google, you become, you know, get your MD overnight by, you know, typing a few things into Google. The beautiful thing about the internet is it will literally give you the answer you want.
Yeah.
You want hemp to be good? You can get a ton of information about being good. You want it to be bad? You can get conclusive information that it's bad. And then you want it to be like, well, we don't know, and that's kind of more the honest answer.
Yeah.
Well, people don't like that, so those pages aren't particularly popular, right? And people are always looking for black and white, and we're in the process of getting to black and white.
Right, right. Let me go to some of the questions that were submitted. And thank you for those who did submit questions. Okay. Oh, here's a good one. So you were talking about, I believe it was the study you did in November, where it was a regular hemp extract compared to a liposomal CBD.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so why are people responding differently to liposomal versus just a straight CBD?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really fantastic question. I think what we saw in the study, so out of 15 people, roughly half of them didn't absorb any hemp, right? And the next question is, well, why is that? Why would you not absorb regular hemp, but you would absorb liposomal hemp? And there's a lot of possibilities. A lot of it could be with digestive tract health. A lot of it could be from poor diet. Like if you have a poor diet, you're not going to absorb nutrition. And a poor diet has to have fats in it. It's got to have carbohydrates. It's got to be high nutritive value food. And anybody who's spoken to me for about 5 minutes knows that one of my favorite studies of all time is talking about how salads eaten with full fat salad dressing allow the people who eat them to absorb more beta carotene, right? So you absorb more nutrition out of your carrots if you have a full fat salad dressing, right? Because that's a more complete meal as opposed to a salad with fat-free salad dressing, right? That's a less complete meal, right? Because you only have the fruits and vegetables, you don't have any of the fats. So a lot of people, because they don't have a good diet that's broken down the way that, I guess now it's a plate rather than the pyramid, they don't have a good diet. The other people, they don't have a good microbial flora, right? So that's why they need to take probiotics. And there's just a lot of reasons. But that's also one of the reasons that we use liposomal CBD, right? And we actually use our variation of liposomal CBD because it's a universal absorber. Everybody gets to absorb the hemp, right? And that's what the study showed. So within the context of that study, we showed that liposomal hemp works and regular hemp sometimes works.
Sometimes works, depending on, the individual's system. Okay, let's see. Okay, in the one that you just released, or so is this?
It was just published, yeah.
It was just published, yeah. It showed a lot of good things when it came to glucose levels. So we have one. Why does CBD, or how does CBD affect glucose levels?
So in this study, even though people filled out a form and said they were completely healthy, it turns out that half of them actually were either pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetics. Their blood glucose were through the roof. What happened was in 30 days, and once again, this is a box of this limited study, right? Their glucose levels normalized. And even people who are at 142, which is very, very high levels of glucose, normalized within 30 days. Now, part of that is that when you eat more healthy fats, that's going to happen. Now, are other components like the terpenes or the cannabinoids and the hemp oil, are they affecting the body in some other way, in some other mechanism? Probably. We just don't know what that mechanism is right now. But what we're doing is we're in the planning stages of really expanding that study and trying to understand what's going on. And we're doing that in collaboration with another company out of Utah. And we're really trying to understand what is the correlation between things like blood glucose, things like blood markers like A1C, which diabetics follow very, very, very closely. And people, when they're doing, hemp or cannabis products or, high CBD extracts, things like that. So really the point of publishing a study like that, making that data available, is for us to now share it with everybody so everybody can take the baton and run with it also, right? We don't have to be the only ones who are studying different things about hemp, and we're not. But we should expand that. So what we've given is, here's some good basic data. Here's a good first step that now the next company doesn't have to do, but they can build on it. And, if we get enough companies and enough universities and enough doctors out there, just continue building, eventually we'll have a really, really nice foundation.
Yeah, just contributing to the pool of data.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
so important. So we're not doing the science light thing anymore. That'd be good. Okay,
That's right.
here's another one, and actually I understand this. Even I understand this. Why are natural plant extracts used to mask the hemp flavor for compliance?
So
Get that.
the reason, so part of doing a clinical study, right? Human beings are human beings. And if something tastes really terrible, there's a good chance that people will just not take it. And then they drop out of the study, then you don't get a complete data set, right? So we included some, nice citrus extracts in there. So we kind of give it a little bit of a lemon flavor. And what was nice is that 100% of the people that started the study finished the study, which is very, very rare. You usually have about a 20% dropout rate.
Yeah. Well, no, that's a beautiful thing. I personally am not a huge fan of the flavor of hemp. So
Right.
I'll take it, and then I'll probably wash it down with some orange juice or something.
Yeah,
I
but
don't like the
because
taste.
the other thing, the other thing too is this is something doctors talk to their to patients about. Say, listen, your multivitamin, it doesn't do you any good in your cupboard. You actually have to take it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like that treadmill that you have in your bonus room that you never use.
Oh,
Owning
the
a
clothes
treadmill
holder.
doesn't help you.
Yeah, it holds
Pardon
my
me?
clothes. That
That's
I refer to
right.
that as my hamper or my clothes holder. Yeah, that treadmill.
Exactly. So treadmill is only useful if you actually use it. Owning it isn't good enough.
Oh. What about the $10 a month I pay
Right?
for Planet Fitness? I mean, that helps, right? Or do I actually have to go and work out? Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right. So a good healthy diet with supplements and adding hemp to it on top of it. I mean, right now all the indications are that that's a good way to stay healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. All right, here's another one, and I'm going to slaughter the pronunciation of this. What is neutrophil or eosinophill?
Yeah, Phil. So those are two different kinds of blood cells. All right. And these are incredibly, incredibly important here. In our clinical study, we definitely tracked them. And what do they do? Well, one blood cell is, and I'm going to be very, very broad in what I'm talking about. So
Okay.
I'm not going to go through all the details, but basically they're responsible for healing, right? So let's say you get a cut on your arm or you have surgery. So they help, heal and get your organs back into shape. And the other one is really associated with an immune response and defending your body against bacteria and viruses and things like that, right? So what's nice in the study is when people for 30 days took 3 times the regular dose, those blood levels stayed consistent, right? If we saw a dramatic change in those, going too high or too low, those are things you really, really want to watch for.
Oh, okay. So you were specifically tracking that because it could be a danger and it is a safety study.
Sure. So if your body took hemp and it recognized it as a virus or something like that, where you had to have an immune response against it, that's not great,
Yeah.
right? And you want to see what it is. I mean, look, some things do that, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, how much does it do it? Is it a little bit? Is it a lot? Does it take somebody who's normal out of range? I mean, that's really what we're looking for. We're trying to see, look, so everybody's got normal ranges, and at the end, after 30 days, are they outside of the normal range, either high or low?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What was good is the people not only stayed within the normal range, but a lot of these indications didn't change much
Mm-hmm.
at all, right? So what that's telling me is that the interaction with the body looks acceptable, in the parameters of this specific study.
Right. Now, so you have one that's going to be published in February. Is that
Right, and that's about the absorption.
That's what?
That's the absorption one will be published in February.
Okay. Are you looking for because I don't know a lot about studies. Are you looking for people to replicate the study to show, or does that what happens just naturally?
That should happen naturally.
Okay. So
That's
someone will say,
exactly
"Oh,
that.
this is really
Should happen
interesting."
naturally.
Yeah.
And here's the next question, right? And here's the next question you could ask. What if, rather than doing a full spectrum, right? Because we did a full oil, right? And it's got all the components in it. Now the question
terpenes,
is,
it's got other cannabinoids, minor, major, blah blah blah.
exactly, essential fatty acids, etc. Now, okay, so we know all of them together at that dose is pretty good. But what if we did a high dose of cannabigerol, CBG,
Yeah.
or CBC, or a high dose of terpenes, right? So we know that this specific extract, that's got a very specific profile, is healthy.
Yeah.
Right. This is what this study indicates. What would happen if we did high amounts of the other components? Right.
Or just isolates.
Okay, how about this? Right. Or how about this? What if we now try to find people with high blood glucose and we gave them only a terpene or only CBG or only one of these things? Would you still get the same results, or an isolated CBD?
Yeah.
Right? What would happen to their blood sugar at that point, at these kind of doses? So this is just the beginning. My expectation is that people, rather than repeating these studies, will build on them.
Right.
Right? And they'll take the next step and, say, look, this guy did 10 people. Let's do 100 people. Let's do 1,000 people. Let's do 1,000,000 people. Right?
Yeah. And as an analyst, I totally geek out on this. So I've been working with data, with like large data sets of millions of records for God, like 20 years now. And so I can envision this in my mind. It's like with all the slicers with the CBG and the CBD and the the THC, and it's like, oh, and if we did this, and if we did this, and we did this, and getting the KPIs flashing, and it's just like, oh, so much data, it's so awesome, yay! And that's what we need.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, it would be great if, doctors kind of started putting together case studies and just started saying, like, look, the one issue with that, right, is that, okay, and we've seen this in the news, we've seen it a few times, products are contaminated with high amounts of heavy metals and pesticides and things like that. So that's one less thing that the doctor has control over, right? Because he does, his patient is going to take whatever product his patient is going to take. He can suggest one.
And that's what they found when they were doing the one with Children's Hospital with CBD, and this is a few years back, and seizures. And they're, so they were noting that yes, certain children were having benefits and blah blah blah, but they didn't know what was in the product. They didn't know. I mean, when it came to dosing, they had none of that information. They just knew that from this group of kids as case studies, it was helping, and it was like, okay, well, that's a start, but not a. But yeah, that's the whole anecdotal thing.
That's exactly right. But, like I said, from a safety perspective, I mean, hemp is safe.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we got 10,000 years of data. People are eating it. That's what they're relying on. Right?
And the FDA even gave hemp as, when it comes to seeds and hulls, the GRAS, generally regarded as safe. So, but that's
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And also, let's not forget that these ingredients, hemp seed oil, right, has these ingredients in them, just at a lower amount.
Yeah.
Right? And the question is, well, how much hemp seed oil do people normally eat? Right? It depends what they use it for.
And at what point do they get diarrhea? Because they had too much.
Right. Well, that has to do with some of the fats.
Well, exactly. But that's one of the things that people are saying. Oh, side effects. Diarrhea. It's like, well, yeah, because you just had, a ton. Like, if they're taking ridiculous amounts, you just flooded your system with fat that it is just not used to. And so,
No, that's exactly right. And your body hates a shock because people, they get to a certain unhealthy stage and they try and reverse it quickly, right? So
yeah,
it takes them 50 years to get sick, and then they want to undo 50 years in 30 minutes,
yeah,
right? Well, that's just not going to happen. So people tend to kind of fly off the handle and go off to a side that's inappropriate, really.
yeah,
So I always tell people, start low, go slow,
yeah.
right?
Now, yeah, and I get that, and I know that that's the way that they that's a good thing. It's a safe way to do it. I'm
Right.
kind of a bolus person, and because I'm just like, but having a genetic defect, uh, and having to deal with symptoms for 50 plus years, for me it was like, and fortunately I didn't go crazy, but I didn't start at 5 milligrams, and work my way up. I
Right.
popped in at 25 milligrams, and which is not that bad, and the symptoms went away, and then when they came back, take it again, and went away, and I'd come back, I'd take it again until it evened out, and I was at, just basically, 20 milligrams a day, moving forward from that.
Right.
But truly, the safe way to do it, especially if you have serious medical issues, is start slow and build up. I
That's right.
just not that personality type.
You can always take a little bit more if you need to, right?
It's like the symptoms come back, take some more. So
Exactly.
not a fan of pain. And so, but yeah, and truly, I mean, it's not like if someone gave you a prescription for something, you wouldn't take the whole freaking bottle. You would take,
No.
the proper amount that you were told to take, and you go from there. And so, yeah, if you should expect that if you overdo something, you're going to have side effects. Fortunately, I didn't have any side effects, which was good.
Right.
But yeah, when people say, "Oh, diarrhea is a side effect," it's like, no, it's not. It's a side effect of the oil that is
Well,
suspended.
sometimes it's also a side effect of contamination.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
And whew, all right, so let's talk a little bit about best practices for CBD companies.
Right.
What should
Well,
a good CBD company be doing?
so first of all, I'd say that really a CBD company is, if a company's calling itself that, I have some issues with it. So first of all, they need to be experts in manufacturing food, drinks, dietary supplements, topicals, moisturizers, etc. Right? And they should be experts in consumer products, not experts in CBD, if that even exists.
Yeah, that's
Okay?
yeah.
That's number one. And so what companies that use hemp should be is really take the model of a dietary supplement company, right? You get the material in your door, you compare the C of A that they provide you with testing that you do independent, right? So it's, you trust them, but you verify them. How do you trust the company that you're working with? Well, you do a supplier survey, you make sure that all the people that you're bringing ingredients in from are professionals, right? So you want to know that they know what they're doing, right? So you want to know who their team is. You want to know that they've been doing this for a while, right? So I think where a lot of there's a lot of risk and a lot of maybe some negative things have happened, or with people who, 3 days ago I was in construction, and today I'm, the president of a hemp company.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was selling real estate, and now I'm the president of a hemp company, right? And that's fine. But then you have to bring in a team of people who've got experience in consumer goods, right? Because it's not something that you just pick up.
Right.
And what you want to do is learn from past mistakes rather than making mistakes on the job, right? And that's incredibly, incredibly important.
Yeah.
It's also important for these companies to spend money on the testing. Go and pay for microbial and heavy metal panels,
Oh God, yes.
pesticides, for solvents, for things like that, and have somebody on staff who understands how to interpret regulations, right? So there's regulations for how much, solvent is allowed to be left over in an extract or an oil. There are regulations in regards to how much heavy metals are allowed to be. Now, it's a bit of a pain and it's a hassle. I understand that, but that doesn't mean that because something's difficult, you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
This is also complicated by regional regulations, right?
Yeah.
The law in Colorado is very different than the law in California, right? I mean, my life's easy. We don't sell to the consumers anyway, so I don't have to worry about that. But people who do, you have to take that into account.
Yeah,
you know,
you've got to find the most stringent and go with that.
And go along with that. That's absolutely right. So what you want to do is really become an expert, or find somebody who is an expert, or partner somebody with an expert, right? So we're a Colorado-based company. We take care of Colorado regulations, right? And then if somebody wants to take a product out of Colorado, they're responsible to understand what the regulation is in whatever region you go, because every single state has its own requirements. A lot of states, especially with hemp products, now require different certifications, right? Some states, you have to have a QR code, and then it goes, and that QR code goes to a website with the C of A there. And they're demanding extra layers of traceability, right? So, you can figure out every ingredient, what product did it go into, and you can take a product and figure out where every single ingredient came from, right? All of this kind of stuff is basic. And, Michael McGuffin, who's the president of APA, I think he just had his 20th anniversary as president of APA, by the way.
He did. Yep.
So if you're watching this, congratulations. It's an amazing milestone. Keep up the good work. But, he lays it out in a very, very straightforward way. Follow the model that's already in existence. APA has been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
I can't remember how old APA is. It's I think like 80 years old or something.
Oh, I don't
Does that sound about right?
I'm going to grab
but you got the Council for Responsible Nutrition. You've got APA. You've got a lot of resources out there, a lot of organizations. There you go. A lot of organizations that they want to help you. They're an industry organization. They're on your side. Join them. Let them help you. Get standard operating procedures. Don't do anything from memory.
They do have the resources. They have and the other members that you can work with and things like that. I mean, when I went to the Senate that they had here in Denver, did you go to the APA Senate? I think it was August.
I didn't.
Yeah. Well, they had amazing.
I did not.
Yeah, they had amazing people there. They had great resources for legal and packaging and just anything that you would need was there, and that's what's so
that's
great.
Right. And you can call up APA and you can talk to their board members, and they're a wealth of knowledge. Some of these guys have just as much experience as Michael McGuffin. I mean, I know people on that board who have decades and decades of experience, who are experts in herbs, or experts in vitamins, or experts in dietary actives like glutathione. That's exactly right. You don't have to work in a vacuum, and you don't have to think that you have to do everything on your own. There are teams out there. Call up your testing lab. They will explain to you what a lot of the regulations are, because they're testing per the regulations. If you're not sure about solvent levels, call up the lab and ask them. But be mindful that, for instance, residual solvent isn't the right test for finished products. So you have to be in communication with these guys and tell them, look, what tests are we running? What is this for? What are we testing here? Right? I implore all companies that use hemp to really start understanding the plant itself, right? So, and a lot of people in the herbal space, this is second nature to them. They know that certain plants concentrate certain toxins and toxicants out of the soil, right? So toxins are basically natural poisons, and toxicants are man-made poisons, right? So when we burnt lead in our gasoline and that went on the land, that's a toxicant. Start understanding the vocabulary, right? Toxin versus toxicant. So once you start understanding that kind of stuff, you can say, well, look, this plant, curcumin, it absorbs lead like crazy. So we always have to test curcumin for lead, right? For people in the herbal industry and the botanical industry, that's second nature. So we can't treat hemp just like everything else. We have to understand it.
Yeah, especially because it's bioremediant. I mean, it helps with the
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
It pulls stuff out of the earth, right? So because now maybe we haven't done as much studies on the hemp plant, you're going to have to make that up by spending money and doing testing, right? And test for more things. Like if you're going to like your testing of hemp should be significantly more than just about any other ingredient that you use, right? There's other things that you have to tackle. For instance, hemp extracts and hemp oils are made in small batches, right? So for let's say I'm a company that manufactures products, right? And I buy 100 kilograms of vitamin C. Well, guess what? That 100 kilograms of vitamin C is part of a batch of 100,000 kilograms, right? So that vitamin C is coming to me and it's going to 100 other companies, right? So there's safety in that, because if I test it and it fails, I'm going to tell my supplier about that. If any of the other 100 companies are testing and it fails, they're going to tell the supplier about it. And then the supplier is going to contact me and be like, hey, listen, we got to recall this. We're going to switch it out for you. The problem with hemp is it's small batch. So one batch could go to only 2 or 3 companies, right? So that safety in numbers, right? Because rather than 100 tests like the vitamin C, there's maybe 3 or 4 companies testing it because it's hemp, right? So these are all parts of identifying risk, right? And that's part of HACCP, right? What you want to identify are critical control points. And you have control points and critical control points. What you do is, for every step in your process, you assess, what is my risk that something bad is going to happen, right? What's the risk that the product is bad, or something's going to happen in the factory that's going to contaminate it, right? And you want to think about it, you want to be mindful about it, and you want to do whatever testing is appropriate and take whatever precautions you're going to take, right? And you know, for instance, in Colorado, we have to use leave-on sanitizers. Well, that's fantastic. And a leave-on sanitizer means it disinfects, but you don't have to really, if it gets in the food, it's okay. It's edible, right? So great. So that gives us a tool to really be able to disinfect our room and equipment and bench tops and whatever it is that this factory is going to use, and make sure it's completely clean and reduce possibility of contamination, you know? These companies, you know, I see them start to add in other ingredients that are allergens. You want to make sure you have a good allergy plan, or be an allergy-free facility and not worry about cross-contamination, right? If you're not confident that you can clean regularly enough to preclude allergens from cross-contaminating, don't use them, right? It's okay, you know, things of that nature. The other thing I would tell these companies is look at what dietary supplements are doing, right? If dietary supplement companies aren't using a certain technology or something like that, you should probably not be using them.
Right.
Okay. For instance, polysorbate is incredibly prevalent in hemp, but it's not prevalent in natural product in the natural supplements industry. Why is that? Well, a great paper came out showing that polysorbate causes inflammation, potentially diabetes, potentially cancer. I mean, it's really, really bad. But you'll see a lot of hemp companies use it as an additive to help with absorption. People don't do that for vitamin C. Why not? Well, because what you're reducing in health by using this ingredient, and what you're increasing health by providing, you know, the vitamin C or the hemp, whatever it is, cancels each other out. So take a cue from established food companies and dietary supplement companies. You know, nano is another thing, right? So fundamentally, the USDA and FDA, they have a very specific definition of nano. And you have to understand what those regulations are. And you also have to understand what the pitfalls are, right? So I never use nano under any circumstances. That's just, you know, why? Because, you want to have some studies behind it. Even though we have studied
liposomal, which is
we do liposomes, but that's not nanotechnology.
Right,
that's something different.
But that what I'm saying is that is a more natural, effective way to be able to absorb it, rather than going with nano, making it so small that it slips in. So
right, exactly. So what I would say is, the hemp industry, follow Michael McGuffin's advice, the president of APA. Don't reinvent the wheel. Take the existing structure that's already in place and follow that. I mean, that's really what needs to happen. And that's what I tell everybody. Make sure all the procedures are written down. Make sure you've got your SOPs. Make sure you got retention samples. Act like a regular food company. And hygiene's important. Look, if a McDonald's that's on every single corner that can have 60-year-old kids keep their kitchen clean, then your hemp company can also do that.
Exactly. And they, like you said, they already had the process down. And
Right.
if you think the FDA is going to do anything less than what they're allowing with the herbal groups, then you're insane. It's going to be at least at that level.
And I'd say right now, we have to be better. Like any stakeholder in the hemp industry. So I generate research and things like that. But any stakeholder, okay, is their responsibility is to elevate the public perception. Okay, just because other people are bad actors doesn't give you free license to also do that, right? So it's really, really important for us, if we're going to be serious about it, and people's incomes are going to be associated by this, and families, that's how they put food on the table.
And people's health.
And people's health, yeah, no, exactly. I mean, this is food. This is what people are eating and stuff like that. Take it very, very seriously. Don't think that because you're a hemp company instead of a supplement company, that gives people any license to do anything less, right? And I know I'm coming off as a little preachy, but bad actors affect all of us,
yes,
right? And when we all misbehave, or even if I don't misbehave, but other people in the industry misbehave, we're all negatively affected by it.
Most definitely. We talk about that quite a bit, and that's why we do need regulation. We need common sense regulation, but we do need regulation, and at the very least, anybody in the hemp arena should be following the herbal products guidelines, the supplement guidelines. It's
absolutely
it's common sense, because when it comes down to it, it is a herb anyway. But to follow at the very least that set of guidelines, if you do that, your chances of being out of compliance in the future is going to be very low. Just they're very common sense.
Look, and this is one of those cases we're doing the right thing from ethical, moral, legal perspective, and a business perspective. It's exactly the same. I mean, sending out a contaminated product is going to destroy your reputation. And why not just spend the money up front to avoid that rather than spend it afterwards on PR?
Exactly. I mean, I can remember some of the companies that were exposed in the first FDA run of testing that was 5 years ago. And I know that I will never buy a product from them, ever. Because if they didn't care 5 years ago, why are they going to care now? I mean, it's just and I know there's, since it's not regulated, that the liability whatever is not clearly delineated when it comes to the effects of a product. But that's why you also, with the whole vaping thing that came out with the vitamin E acetate, and how the majority of those were being sold out of people's cars. I was reading a New York Times article, and like, why would anybody put something in their body that came out of somebody's car at the very least?
Listen, I mean, the vape industry, had some issues. I mean, a lot of it was illicit.
Yeah.
A lot of that product came out from companies that had legitimate companies, and then had a second factory that they just didn't tell anybody about.
Yeah.
That was in the back. So, unfortunately, economic gain is one of those things that people always pursue. But, right now, what we're seeing is that, a lot of companies, I mean, they've just been found out to the product that they're selling versus, what's actually in there, what they're saying they're selling and what they're actually selling isn't very similar. But what's nice is that the marketplace is taking care of them, because they've kind of, for lack of a better word, they've kind of, put a whole bunch of their customers, they've screwed them, and, and kind of put their customers in a bad situation, and then their customers left them, and they're just losing market share, and they're no longer profitable, and, pretty soon they won't be around anymore. So I think from a governmental space, the FDA, the Departments of Health, and all of those kind of bodies from the government are going to do their job and, start weeding out the bad players. But my hope is that the marketplace also starts weeding out the bad players.
Well, and elevates itself with the studies and sharing of
Exactly.
information as well.
Exactly. And look, I'm really, really excited. I mean, right now we have one study that's about to be published, another study that was, submitted for publication. We're conducting several more studies right now. So at least from our R&D, we're going to be generating it out there, and people can kind of see, like, look, it's not that difficult. Here is a good way of getting the initial basic data, and then we can build on that. As we get the data, will lead you. You get data that says, hey, look, maybe there's an indication between hemp and blood sugar, right? Okay, let's follow that down to its natural conclusion. Mm-hmm. Hey, look, there's a correlation between better sleep and this part of hemp. Mm-hmm. Let's follow that down, where we need to.
Exactly.
And that's what we're doing piece by piece, right? And what's really nice though is, like, for instance, right now we're doing a study on B12, magnesium, vitamin C. We're about to do a study on green tea and a few other herbal ingredients in there, looking at metabolism and things like that. And we're going to continue doing the studies because, look, the work has just started in hemp, and it's really in the middle of continuing for food and supplements in general.
Yeah, that's a great thing. So, what is something that, and I think I may have asked you this on your last study, what is something that you saw that you didn't think you'd see?
Well, the blood sugar results were surprising, mm-hmm. right? On one hand, what was really surprising was that half of the people in the study didn't know that they had blood sugar issues.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, but that kind of brings you back to the state of American health, is that people are not eating properly. They're not exercising, right? I mean, you got to exercise, you got to eat, you got to sleep enough and drink plenty of water and stay away from sugar.
Yeah. Right?
I mean, the same things we've been telling people since kindergarten. It's like, do that, yeah. Eat fruit, eat cottage cheese, eat lean, meat if you're not a vegetarian, or, things like that.
Oh, and my favorite thing, pickled beets. Yay, pickled beets. So that's
beets
my guilty
are
pleasure.
Phenomenal. I'm a huge fan of beets for a variety of reasons. It's just such an amazing vegetable and root. But that was a real surprise to me. Like, not so much that hemp helped, get to healthy blood sugar, but that people weren't even aware of it.
Wow.
Right? Every time we do these studies, this happens over and over and over again. People will say, yes, I'm perfectly healthy. I go to the doctor regularly. I get physicals. My blood's perfect. And then you're like, because you have a moral and legal obligation to tell people about that.
Yeah.
So the clinical scientist who we hire to do this is then required to tell them, listen, I know you think you're completely healthy. However, we have some indications here. We're not going to diagnose you, but please go to the doctor immediately. And here's the blood tests. Take this to the doctor, please.
Yeah.
Right.
And of course, by the end of 30 days, their glucose was much better. So.
Right. From the second study that's about to be published, the big surprise to me was that regular hemp didn't absorb with some people.
Yeah.
Right. And that really shouldn't happen. I mean, the question is, what are people eating today that's making their stomachs not and their small intestines not function all that well, mm-hmm. right? I mean, that is a big question, and it's not only from a nutrition digestive standpoint; it's from an immune standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, your digestive tract is your first line of protection against everything, right? We breathe through our mouths, we breathe through our noses. Food goes down our esophagus into our stomach, where all the bacteria and microbes should be killed off, and all the good ones should stay there. So it was really amazing to me that a lot of regular people couldn't absorb regular hemp. About half of them. Well, actually, I think it was 60%. So now more than ever, because all the liposomal hemp absorbed in 100% of people at varying degrees. Let me put it this way: somebody who couldn't absorb any traditional hemp wasn't very good absorbing anything, period, even with the liposomal technology.
Wow.
I mean, like, the absorption was really, really high, but it just wasn't high as somebody who could absorb regular hemp very well, and then the people who could absorb hemp very well, probably had a healthy digestive tract, also were able to absorb the liposomal hemp incredibly well. I mean, just insane. I mean, it was incredible, some of the blood levels people got to. It was really, really phenomenal. So a lot of the surprises had really nothing to do with the study itself. It had to do with the participants in the study, and it really put into perspective that people need a full, good, healthy diet with fats, right? It's just so incredible.
I had a chiropractor on who is doing some studies with the hemp as well. And that was one of the things that he also mentioned was the whole like gut brain connection or things, and how so many diseases are being traced back to the biome in people's guts because of the imbalance that it's causing and trickling down into more.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, right? People always think about gut health in terms of what the organ itself looks like, right? Do you have ulcers? Or this or that? No, nobody's thinking about, well, what's inside?
Yeah.
What's the microbial growth looking like? What's the different ratios?
I also mentioned that
and that's such a big.
Yeah, there are also a lot of CB receptors in the gut.
Yeah.
But so I'm sorry, but you were talking about
there's a lot of endocannabinoid receptors everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really one of the most amazing discoveries in the last 2 decades is this system is prevalent throughout your body, and it's a master regulatory system. I mean, it regulates neurology, it regulates,
I know it participates in the immune system as well.
Yeah, it's really important. And you know what? This is the other thing, is people need to stop thinking of the endocannabinoid system as strictly like, hey, I want to take cannabinoids from my endocannabinoid system, right? Green tea has a lot of ingredients that are really phenomenal for your endocannabinoid system, but
they don't come from hemp.
Like a good green tea extract does that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when we look at a lot of terpenes out there, they exist in a ton of places, not just hemp, right? So people want to start thinking about your endocannabinoid system in broader terms, in broader food terms, right? Curcumin and ginger also have a lot in them that help modulate the endocannabinoid system.
Did you say turmeric once also? I think.
Turmeric, yeah.
I think
turmeric,
the last time I
curcumin.
interviewed you, you talked about turmeric also.
Yep. So turmeric, so curcumin is active in turmeric.
Okay.
Turmeric and ginger, right? They're cousins, root cousins, and have a lot of similar type of properties. So we really need to start thinking about the endocannabinoid system. It's not just like, hey, I want THC or I want CBD or I want this, but start thinking about like, hey, just like any other part of your body, your endocannabinoid system needs full, broad nutrition.
Yes.
Right? Concentrating on one ingredient isn't going to do it.
No.
I mean, I know this is called CBD talk, but CBD is just one component, one healthy component out of a broader
well,
plant.
It's like where they say eat the rainbow, and they're not talking about Skittles. They're talking about fruits and vegetables.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, a cannabinoid is a cannabinoid, whether it's coming from hemp or coming from like you said, ginger or something like that. Or
chocolate.
Oh, see now, yeah. Now you got me. But yeah, it's about strengthening your endocannabinoid system, however you do it. Whether it's CBD or another cannabinoid or a terpene or a lichen, whatever. It's That's what it's about, is your endocannabinoid system. And CBD is just one small way of helping that, boosting that system.
That's exactly right. So once again, drink plenty of water, get enough sleep, exercise, several times a week, and some hemp. Right?
Or some
And good
cannabinoids.
food.
Yeah.
Yep, and some food. Absolutely. Listen, we're in Colorado. The state has its own regulatory environment. So yeah,
Yeah.
go for the cannabinoids.
Exactly. Yeah, we're very lucky to live here. So, okay. So,
Absolutely.
if somebody wanted to reach out to you to ask you questions about starting a study, how could they do that?
So basically we have Puffin Hemp, which is our R&D arm.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty soon we're going to be announcing a proper company to do studies. Right? I mean, this is truly a company
And
designed.
we're going to have you back on when you do.
Right, exactly. So we're going to announce that collaboration very, very soon. I'm very, very excited about it. We're going to be collaborating with a faculty member in one of the most well-known and most prestigious medical schools, hospitals in the world.
Awesome.
And obviously here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So truly experts in the industry. And then, next time, I'll talk all about it and what it is that we're doing. But, people can reach out, and I'm always happy to be a resource. I want people in this space to do things in a good, healthy manner.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is maybe helping out your competition a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's contributing to the whole.
Contributing to the whole. That's right. Because, Winston Churchill said it first, but rising tides lift all boats. And that's a really, really important philosophy, that by helping other people, you're fundamentally helping everybody and ultimately yourself.
Mm-hmm. So puffinhemp.com, they can contact you through that website for now.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, because if that means that more people are doing studies, then that is a good
thing. That's exactly right. And look, and it's important. It's important, look, even in the dietary supplement industry with vitamins, you don't see all that many clinical studies. You see a select few companies have some clinical studies, and that's that. And okay, but in this burgeoning industry, it's really important for us to invest in a very, very big way, in a very real way.
Right.
So having just and that's the other thing about hemp companies, they can't view science strictly from a marketing perspective.
Right.
You got to view it as science and part of the integrity of the company.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap it up because I have taken enough of your time out of your work day today.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And I'm looking forward to the next one where we talk about the study, the company, the venture that you're working on. That I'm so ridiculously excited for. So
me too.
Until the next time, guys, stay happy and stay healthy. Drink water, exercise, plenty of sleep, good nutrition, good balanced meal. Go with what Dr. Blair is saying, so and it'll help. So, okie doke. And if you guys have any questions, puffinhemp.com. Please, companies out there, start participating in studies at any level that you can, even if you're joining together with 6 other companies to fund it. Just please contribute to the whole, and it's the best thing that we can do as industry professionals. So thank you very much, and everybody, until next time.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.